What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. In today's video I have a real decision on my hands. Both my accounts have over 100 void shards. There is a guaranteed void champion going on right now, and it's for this champion right here, Valkanen. So Valkanen, if you guys didn't watch the Call of the Arbiter series, is the person before he turned into Bad L. So he's Bad L before he was Bad L. You know what? I actually didn't watch the second half of the Call of the Arbiter series. Kind of lost interest. So I don't know his entire backstory, but that's his story. So currently there's a 100 void shard guarantee for this champion. And I have a real decision. Both my accounts have over 100 void shards, and I could easily pull for him as a guaranteed on my 100 shard. Let's jump into his kit and we'll go through whether it makes sense or not. His A1, it's fair enough. Ignore shields, 60% chance to increase duration of all debuffs. It's totally okay. It's nothing too crazy or anything. And then it has a chance to 100% chance to apply debuff spread, which is kind of nice. 2 random debuffs, placing them on all enemies under hex. So this is not guaranteed. So this is just an additional conditional part of his A1. Which is reasonable, nothing too insane. 20% of damage into books. He is a damage dealing champion, so it's attack based damage dealing champion. So you want to see these damage numbers off of books. His A2 is an AoE, but it's classified as a single target damage, so I guess it's kind of like a soft response to like Duchess's passive. You know, I don't know, I think it's too niche of a thing for all this text. It's not necessary, but it's nice versus Duchess. Before attacking, it has a 100% chance of placing hex on all enemies for 2 turns. That's very nice, and it will ignore 20% of each enemy's resistance for each dead ally, so up to I guess 80%. That's fine. So it's an AoE hex, AoE attack. Damage of the skill increases by 10% for each debuff on each enemy. So this AoE can actually kind of smack, right? 20% in books, 5 books here, 3 turn cooldown. So this AoE can kind of smack. Obviously the placing the hex part is a big part of his damage. Could make him viable in like places like Hydra, but he's gonna do a lot of damage if all that hex gets applied. And then the damage is spread throughout the whole enemy team. His A3, it has like a million things going on. So you kill an ally, you target an ally, you kill an ally, or you target a dead ally. So targeting a dead ally or a alive ally gives you some different benefits. So if you kill a alive ally, it unlocks a secret skill, Malice Unleashed, and then it places a weaken and a true fear on all enemies, and these cannot be blocked or resisted. So when you're placing like 2 debuffs on each champion and they're unblockable, this is a huge problem versus polymorph. So he's going to be a big polymorph problem. Yes, polymorph will get a relook in January. We don't know what that's going to look like. It potentially could make this move a lot better, or this champion. But we don't know what it looks like. But currently, in its current form, it's a huge problem against polymorph. Then it fills this champion's turn meter by 75%. So if you do this move, which is basically like you lose a turn, you weaken your own team by killing an ally, you only get 75% of your turn meter back, which is a problem as well. So he doesn't instantly get a turn. If this said gain an extra turn, that would have been like a million times better, but only 75% turn meter. It's not even 100% turn meter. If it said 100% turn meter, that doesn't even guarantee that he gets a turn. So 75% turn meter, that's definitely not gonna mean he gets a go. So it's a big problem. If the ally is dead, so there's a different set of conditions here. So if you can target a dead ally, you put a big heal on Valkanen. His heal is not very strong because he has very low base HP. So you're not going to get too much value there. And then if all the allies are dead, it unlocks the Malice Unleash turn. Malice Unleash skill. So this is also this part of his kit is like the nice, like the oh, this is the part I want, but it has a harder condition to unlock his skill. You want to unlock his secret skill, but it's the one you prefer to use. Like, this is the condition you want, but it's much harder because you require your whole team to be dead. It places a shield on this champion for 2 turns. The value of the shield is equal to the surplus heal. So you just get, you get a big shield out of it because his HP pool is so low. And then you get 75% turn, which is another, the same issue, right? You need an instant turn on this move. It's just a, 3 turn cooldown with books. And then his secret move is very good. You could think about it like Mortu's secret move, but kind of not as good. Almost Peril is almost kind of better sometimes. Like Malice Unleash, it has a buff steal, which is better than Mortu, but the problem with this skill is that it's not 100% defense ignore, and Mortu has the same block revive, so it's similar to Mortu's, and it is controllable by yourself, which is nice, whereas Mortu is controllable by your enemy. So you can kind of think about it like that, in that way. It's kind of like Mortu's Peril ability, except it's only 50% defense ignore. And it's a good move if this was not a secret move that requires a setup from a very weird, kind of a weird setup move that's a detriment to your team. So I've played against this champion in live arena, actually like quite a few times, a handful of times I would say. And his biggest issue is his sheep. So he's a big sheep problem for himself. But if he can avoid the sheep, the true fear is a huge positive. So the true fear is a huge positive against your enemy, because it's just something that is really hard. You can't really deal with it. And then of course his block revive is very strong. So in live arena, block revive is incredibly strong. However, when you think about his the bonuses from this move, 50% defense ignore is just not really anything special. Like Wukong, for example, has 50% defense ignore on his A2, and it's an insanely strong attack. Yes, there's more going on with Valkanen's move here, like a buff steal, and as well ignoring all this extra stuff. But the setup, it's a 2-turn setup, and it's only a single target attack, so it's not going to be super effective in a lot of places. You mainly want to use this move against the enemy nuker, take him out of the game, and then you're good to go. And then we got his passive, which is, so his passive, let's see here. So his passive active effect places a shield on his champion whenever an allied enemy dies. Shield, the value of the shield is equal to 50% of the dead champion's max HP. So he has a little bit of self survivability. 1 turn cooldown though. And then his passive effect is whenever an enemy hits this champion when this champion's under a shield buff. So obviously you bring like bolster or shield set for your whole team. That's very nice. So he's mostly going to be protected by a shield. Place a random debuff on the attacking enemy. So it's all sorts of random stuff. You can put any debuff in the whole game against the enemy. Any debuffs will be placed with 2 turns. Ignore 20% of the enemy resistance for each dead ally. So again, it's kind of a cool passive. It protects him. It gives him a shield. It controls the enemy when he gets attacked. But this makes him a big sheep target. So even if he survives, he has to beat the sheep, the sheep check, right? So it's just another thing that can really just shut him down. And if your nuker gets sheeped, in live arena, you're kind of done most of the time. So until sheep gets reworked, we don't know the true value or true disadvantage of this, all these debuffs. But otherwise, it's a pretty cool passive. Aura, extremely strong, 30% speed in arena battles, which is the same as the Arbiter. So very, very good. His base stats are not very good. I think he has like 14k HP, and his attack is okay, like 1540 or something, and his base speed is 96, so it doesn't really improve. It's a little bit slow on that end. So the real question is, will I be going for this champion? So I was looking over some of the old fusions that we had, and the old guarantees that we had. So the last guaranteed legendary we had was Supreme KO, 110 void shards. I would say he was probably one of the better ones, but 110 was really expensive, so Valkanen for 100 seems almost kind of reasonable. Chogger for 110 was in February, so Supreme KO end of March, Chogger end of start of February. Before that, we had 3 in 2022. We had Fortis for 80, Turbo for 80, and Real Bone Spear was the first Void Legendary guarantee for 90 Void Shards. So Valkanen for 100 versus some of these champions seems okay, depending where you want to use them. To me, Turbo is undisputably the best value for any guaranteed Void Legendary. He's like super meta for my Platinum Arena team, and they're just, most of these champions are just not very good. You won't be using them all the time. Riho found a place where she was necessary, like Sand Devil and Shogun. So she found a place in those two areas. But of course, she can be very good in like Clan Boss and stuff like that. So to me, she was one of the better ones. At 90, she was very solid. Fortis, just awful a year later. Still awful. Still waiting for something that makes him work. So 15 months later, still awful. Chogger, 110, still not used much anywhere. Supreme KO, still not used anywhere. So these champions, 9-10 months old, no use. So Valkanen, could it be like a champion that doesn't get used for another year? I think so. I think personally for me, I think it's an easy skip. I'm not going to pull shards for the sake of pulling shards. My account doesn't need a champion like Valkanen. Both my accounts don't need a champion like Valkanen. He's basically a damage dealer, but he's a very conditional damage dealer, and his biggest selling point is kind of his block revive. And I'm not so desperate that I would him for a block revive champion. Also, the other thing to consider is like progressive chance events. So mainly I've been saving my void shards for 10x chances on meta champions, arena meta champions, Terrace, Marichka, or Acrizia. So I would probably go for Acrizia myself. But we do have progressive chance champions now, so that's 15x to start, which is better than 10x, but it's not, one of my videos recently showed that the math behind it doesn't make it seem as nice as it sounds, but it's still better than the current 10x. So I'm probably going to still save for one of those progressive events one of these days, and then I'll just go all in on whatever champion I see that I want. But for Valkanen, I think I'm going to hard pass. Not interested in Valkanen at all. I don't see him usable in many PvE areas. Like AoE Hex might be okay, but he's just too finicky and too kind of too much hand holding to make him too viable. Like he's just kind of not worth the effort. So that's going to be my opinion on him. I don't see him being arena meta even with the sheep update. There's going to be lots of champions that will be usable if sheep actually gets a pretty big adjustment, although hard to say. If sheep, there's too much speculation with sheep right now, but if sheep gets a hard update, there's going to be many champions that's going to get a new look into viability. But anyways guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time as always. Let me know if you guys are going for him. I hope maybe I provide some insight to make your decision a little bit easier, but for me it's a hard skip for Valkanen. All right guys, so good luck on your polls if you guys are pulling, and I'll see you guys in the next video.